I consider myself a conservative, I consider myself Republican, but that does not mean that I am equated to a Trump supporter or that I'm equated to someone that's, a nationalist.
There's a lot of stereotypes about Republicans that exist. I think it's that they're racist, they hate poor people, and they want your grandma to die.
I've been called, race betrayer and Uncle Tom, and really, kind of harmful ethnic slurs simply because of a diversity of thought.
I have to consistently explain to people and justify that I am not the rhetoric and I guess what has become normalized in the current Republican Party.
So I know there are plenty of people that I'm friends with that are not politically involved, but generally have my views, moderate Republicans, who don't want to be involved. They don't want to deal with it. They say, oh, I wouldn't get a job because of it. I won't have friends because of it. My parents won't like me because of it. Shouldn't have to be that way.
That's why I've been thinking about this for a while, because I've been thinking about where is my home politically.
So this is me here after that, this is the UN General Assembly Hall. And it was just so cool to kind of, sit there and stay there. I always make this joke with my mom, but I can't wait to be able to post these photos and be like, this is where it started, and look at where I am now.
I've always been really interested in politics since the time I was a small kid. My mom tells funny stories about me just taking it way too seriously all of the time.
We are at the Georgetown waterfront right now, actually.
When I was a senior in high school, I wrote my research project on how to win the presidential election.
Who is planning to come to our town hall on Sunday?
Voting for the president of the country for the first time this year was point blank so incredibly disappointing. I did not vote for a candidate that I was excited to vote for. I did not vote for a candidate that I felt had the same political views as me. And so I found myself between a rock and a hard place, between considering myself a member of a party that had, similar priorities in terms of what issues were important by, acknowledging climate change and actually making legislation that did something towards it, by making sure that their party was inclusive to everyone. And then lastly, by at least making changes on improving our healthcare. All of these things were happening. And, I think that it came to this problem was, I believe in this, but I don't believe in the ways that they're saying, to get there. And so that left me kind of without a political home.
How much are you talking?
If I had to look back on being a little kid and seeing the yard signs for the presidents, and I remember saying, 2020, that's the first time I can vote in a presidential election. I never would have imagined the first time that happened, I wouldn't be voting for my party's nominee.
Invite your friends. I think we're capped at 100 people.
When I was younger, I really felt that I had a home in the Republican Party. When I got to college and with the Trump administration and similar diffusion effects at the state level, my state party is now kind of in line with this administration's rhetoric. I felt that I didn't really have a place to be engaged politically. That's why I decided to start Gen Z GOP.
Thanks for coming on a Saturday, guys. You guys rock.
Gen Z GOP is an organization of Gen Z Republicans from across the country that aim to chart a new vision for the Republican Party, a post-Trump vision that does not involve this populist rhetoric, this race baiting, and even some of the pre-Trump tactics that are not as socially accepting.
Going forward, Generation Z, we have values that we hold dear. We want to see racial justice in this country. We want the equality of the LGBTQ+ community. We want entitlement reform to reform things like Social Security that we're paying into and won't get back.
We're not trying to make a statement about this election on its own. We're trying to say, where can this party go if the president loses? There's going to be a large conversation about what this party is going to look like in the future.
This was my freshman year in 2017, where I had been interning with the current then Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan.
I absolutely think as a black man and as a conservative black man, I absolutely have to defend myself harder. But to me, that's I don't necessarily always see it as a negative.
I wish that sometimes I could have some of these more conversations with some of my friends that are so passionate, because we have similar levels of passion and we believe in the same things. And sometimes it can get frustrating when we can't even have those conversations because of preconceived notions.
I don't really know what Gen Z is going to do about the divisiveness issue, because I see people my age propagating the same kinds of things, but I think I do have hope, because I think we're going to realize that we're not going to be able to solve the increasing amount of problems that we face unless we come to the table and dish it out with each other in a productive way.
I think that it's an interesting opportunity for people to hear what conservative climate change action is?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, all of these adults who have spent their entire career in Washington have no idea what it's like to be a young person in America today, because so much has changed. And it's natural for our country and our priorities and our society to change, but our politics should keep up with that.
I think that the greatest threat, I think, to our democracy is the lack of young folks who are motivated to run for office.
Keep sending it, keep sharing it, and I better see all of you here.
If you look at the people who are controlling Washington today, they're all in their 70s and 80s, and this is no disrespect, but at the end of the day, as a 22-year-old, there are issues that if we don't address now, when I am that age, they will be substantially worse.
We need to start freaking out, honestly. We need to start yelling. We need to start looking at each other and saying, all right, what can we do to change what we're going to be living in? Because I know that I personally do not want to inherit a legislative system that's looks like it is right now for when I'm having kids or when I'm the age of these politicians.
We want to be a part of the conversation that goes along more broadly in the country about how we can fix our broken political discourse. We want to come to the table, at least in a partisan sense, be like, all right, the Republican Party is here. We're ready to step up to the table, bring our views, our values, our policies, but in a good way. And I hope that our friends on the left can do the same.